Doesn't deserve this extension, but because of the new head coach, you see why he got it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there are definitely, I can imagine without even going on social media, that there's going to be two paths of reaction from fans on this. There's going to be people who are over the top celebrating because, we got our guy, Poles is going to cook for us, and all this absolute garbage that they like to do on social media. And then there are people who are realists and they say, well, sir, you won 5 games last year, and now you're rebuilding for a second time, even though you were the guy that rebuilt the team that couldn't win anything in the first place, and you had to fire a coach. We have huge Bears news from earlier today, Abdalla. Sources tell ESPN and Adam Schefter that the Bears have extended GM Ryan Poles. He has agreed to a 3-year contract extension, which will now run until the end of the 2029 season. It's a 5-year deal because it's tacking on 3 to the 2 they previously had. And now Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are both under contract until the end of the 2029 season for the next 5 seasons. So Ryan Poles gets a new deal from the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple conversations you can have about this. One, I think that we kind of all knew that this was going to happen. Kevin Warren loves Ryan Poles and thinks that Ryan Poles is the right man for the job. And so this was coming, and if you do think that your GM is the right man for the job, the right thing to do is to tie him to your new head coach so there isn't all this speculation about, well, are they going to move on from Ryan Poles? What does Ben Johnson think of Ryan Poles? All this kind of stuff. Because I don't think Ben Johnson would have taken the job if he knew and he didn't get along with Ryan Poles and was going to have to work with him for the next 1 to 2 years. So the other conversation, Chris, is Ryan Poles has really done nothing to deserve an extension. He's done. He hasn't. They won 3 games 2 years ago. They won 5 games last year. He is responsible up until this year for one of the worst offensive lines, as a former offensive lineman, for one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. He by no means deserves an extension for failing into he got lucky he needed help to get the number 1 pick to get Caleb Williams, who we still don't know is or is not going to be a star in the league. Sure, you got Ben Johnson, you landed Ben Johnson. I put that on Kevin Warren and George McCaskey that went out there and got Ben Johnson to be the coach of the Bears. And sure, Ben, he might have had a hand in it. Of course, they have to work together. But in looking at what Ryan Poles has accomplished as a GM, he doesn't deserve this extension. But because of the new head coach, you see why he got it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there are definitely, I can imagine without even going on social media, that there's going to be two paths of reaction from fans on this. There's going to be people who are over the top celebrating because, we got our guy, Poles is going to cook for us, and all this absolute garbage that they like to do on social media. And then there are people who are realists and they say, well, sir, you won 5 games last year, and now you're rebuilding for a second time, even though you were the guy that rebuilt the team that couldn't win anything in the first place, and you had to fire a coach, which you held on to too long, and now you have the right guy. But what about how we got to this point? Like, at the end of the day, he could be right. We could have the quarterback, the coach, players in position. This roster, I think, will be good. I think they will be competing for a playoff spot this season. So, you can give a lot of credit to Ryan Poles. But then again, on the same exact thought, he hasn't proven anything to deserve a contract extension. And I think that, honestly, to me, it puts a lot of pressure on Ryan Poles, which means they have to win this year. You don't get a contract extension. You don't get all this stuff. And it's like, okay, let's ease into it. Hopefully in 2 or 3 years we're competing for the playoffs. No. With the contract extension now for Ryan Poles, you have to win this upcoming season.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
No, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think it's playoffs or bust, though. I don't think that you have to, tie anything to – because obviously he's not on the hot seat anymore, right?
But here's how he becomes someone who is on the hot seat. If they struggle this year and if the coach isn't the guy
of course.
And you're not seeing the improvement from a 5-win team when everything was set up and you were extended – people are not going to be happy with that.
No, of course not. But if they win 9 games and don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to hold that against Ryan Poles because they're still trending in the right direction, right? maybe the next year is the year that they make the playoffs after that. So I do also believe that you can learn from your mistakes as a first-time GM. You know, Ryan Pace didn't learn from his mistakes, and he was out of a job with the Bears. And hopefully Ryan Poles has learned from his mistakes, from trying to draft guys and hold on for them for too long like Velus Jones, for making trades for guys that you end up having to cut because they're a problem in the locker room, for going out and not listening to people on your staff and saying, do not sign Nate Davis. He doesn't like to work. He's not productive. He's not going to be good for the team, and you just ignoring them and going out and doing it anyway. I think now if you look at how they drafted, Ben Johnson had a lot of input on this draft. I would also say that Ben Johnson had a lot of input on what they did in free agency, looking at how they built the offensive line and how they went about that. And also Dennis Allen, former head coach, having a lot of influence on what they did defensively. So I think that it can be, in the dreaded word, collaboration. It can be a true collaboration between these guys, and they can get better, right? Like, you always are going to get two coaches. And he did. He got his second coach, and it's Ben Johnson. And I don't think it would have been in the best interest of the team still to go into a lame duck season with a lame duck GM, because then we're doing this all again, right? Everybody's complaint is, well, you never hire them at the same time. You always hire the GM, and then a year later you're firing the coach and then hiring a new coach. And then you fire the GM, but they're still a coach, and then you hire a GM, and he's not going to want the coach, so that's a lame duck coach. Now at least we have a 5-year plan between the two guys, and if it doesn't work in the next 5 years, they're both out.
Well, yeah, that's like, and I don't think that's likely. And
no.
I'm not trying to be too harsh on it. And if you want to join us, Bleck and Abdalla, we're in for Waddle and Silvy today. You can call us at 312-332-3776. I'm just looking at the facts that are in front of us. The Bears have gone 15-36 with Ryan Poles as GM. Mm-hmm. 0 playoff appearances. Last year fired his head coach, so he's on to the second one. I don't think it's going to go south. I think they're going to be good. I think they have the head coach. I think the quarterback is the guy. Mm-hmm. It's just fascinating to me that a guy who's only won 15 games as GM and in the amount of time that he's been here is getting an extension. That's it. That's all I'm pointing to.
Well,
I think that they have found the right people.
Yeah.
It's just they're rewarding mediocrity.
Well,
and it's not even mediocrity. It's bottom of the barrel. This team has finished last in the division every year that Poles has been here.
And if what you believe is true and happens, what's the difference between giving it to him now and giving it to him at the end of the year? Like, I know you can say, oh, well, it's more warranted at the end of the year because they end up winning 8 or 9 games, so that makes the difference. Okay, so if you're going to, like, we all know going into this, they were never going to fire Ryan Poles. They weren't going to do it this offseason. Kevin Warren is in charge, and he likes Ryan Poles. So you can scream about it to whatever show you're listening to on this radio station until you're blue in the face. They were not going to fire Ryan Poles. That was never going to be an option. So he went out, they got their guy, they got Ben Johnson, and hopefully they do collaborate or whatever you want to call it, and Ryan Poles goes out there and hopefully they're not worrying about a top 10 draft pick and whether or not they're going to make that mistake. Hopefully they're not, we're not talking about a 5-win team when we get to January at the end of the season. Ideally, you and I both believe they're going to be a 9-win team. They should have a shot at the playoffs, and that would warrant an extension at the end of the year anyway. So they just went about it and did it now. I don't think this was a secret that this was going to happen. I think we all knew this was going to happen. And to me, it just makes sense that you line him up with Ben Johnson, because now you do have the out, right? Like,
right.
You have the out as an organization that if even in 4 years, you can pay guys for a year not to work. In 4 years, if we know that this isn't it, you move on, and we're cleaning house, and we're doing this whole thing again where you're getting a new quarterback, you're getting a new GM, and you're getting a new head coach. And that's like worst case scenario, right? Like, best case scenario is what we laid out, that they're going to win 9 and hopefully have a run at the playoffs.
Yeah, and then the best case scenario is that they're good, right? And the moves that he made in the offseason proved to be true, and the Bears win football games, and that's really all that matters. It's just interesting to me when you look at the accomplishments and what you see from Ryan Poles to this point. That's just something that I saw when I saw the news and the breaking news from earlier today, this afternoon, Adam Schefter, The Chicago Bears and GM Ryan Poles have agreed to a 3-year extension. He had 2 years left on his deal, so now he's at 5 years as Bears GM, and he's locked in with Ben Johnson.
See, when I saw the news, I thought that there was always like a secret extension that had already been done. The way Ryan Poles was talking about or not talking about his contract during the press conferences at the end of the year, during the draft, how he wouldn't, talk about it, and how Kevin Warren wouldn't talk about it. It's kind of like how the Bulls operate, where they have extensions. Just tell us they have extensions. Just stop keeping it a secret. Just tell us.
And Courtney Cronin's article on ESPN.com points that out, that ESPN first reported the Bears' plan to extend Poles during the 2025 offseason in January.
Yeah.
So it is something that's been a part of the conversation. We didn't hear about it, and then now it has happened. And I wonder how Bears fans feel. I'm guessing most are excited and pumped up for this upcoming season.
For the season.
Yeah, but this goes into the hype and the excitement of year 1 with Ben Johnson, year 2 with Caleb.
I think that if Bears fans, if you put it on the poll, Chris, and a majority of Bears fans would have said...
Don't put anything on my poll.
A majority of Bears fans would have said, wait the year and see how this plays out. And if it doesn't work, if the guys that he signed are bad, if the trades fall flat and you've got a bunch of duds, that you traded for, then you don't extend him, you fire him, you work with Ben Johnson to find a GM that he wants to work with. That's what I think a majority of the people, and the people that can call us at 312-332-3776 would say. I don't believe we're going to get a lot of people that are like, hell yeah, let Poles cook.
I gotta laugh. I laughed so hard the other day when I heard this. Tyler Aki's back at the ESPN 1000 studios with Justin Pottinger. They're producing the show. They're in the shop, 190 North State Street. I laughed so hard the other day when Jesse was in for Silvy, and Jesse asked to have you put it on the poll, Tyler, and your response was, you put it on the poll. that
one got rave reviews.
That was awesome.
That's why I said great. If. I didn't want to get yelled at by Tyler, so that's why I said if you were to put it on the poll.
It was great. I was listening, and I'm sure many other people who were listening to the show at that time all laughed the way that I laughed, because it was absolutely funny. Yeah, that's what we have now, and we look at the Bears situation, and the Bears now extend Ryan Poles through 2029. We'll take your phone calls. We go to line 1. Mark in Lincoln Park. You're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Adam, Chris? How are you guys today? Happy
We're
Friday.
Great. Happy Friday.
Chris, I think you did a great job presenting both sides of that. I was shocked, kind of like you, that he got the extension when I saw it. But I get marrying up the head coach and the GM. But to your point, Adam, I really think it should have been after this season. What he did with the wide receiver from Pittsburgh, where we gave up a number 2, the tackle that didn't work out, the offensive guy. There's too many misses for Poles. Now, he inherited a mess from Ryan Pace, but he's 15-36, Chris. Like you said, that does not merit a 5-year extension. I know it's 3 more years off of what he's got, but
yeah,
I don't see it. I would have waited this year. I get your point, Adam. Warren loves Poles. I get they're married up, but dude, his performance is so poor at 15-36, and the mistakes he's made, and the number 1s he got did fall into our lap. But I'm with you, Chris. It's a great. You can see both sides of that argument, but I would have waited a year for sure.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mark.
Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely. No, appreciate the phone call. And Mark makes a good point. What is the rush to have waited until after the season when they're a playoff team? They're on the rise. That you have the head coach. Well, you and I were on there yesterday talking about it. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Ben Johnson doesn't work out.
Oh, yeah.
I would bet that it does.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good. And I think the Bears have their guy finally. Mm-hmm. But nothing is guaranteed.
No, but I do think that part of the courting of Ben Johnson was what Courtney reported and how this was done in January, right? Like, if you go back and find the exact date that Courtney reported it, I'm assuming, and I probably shouldn't be doing this, that report was before they hired Ben Johnson. So if I'm a prospective head coach, I want to know what's going on. Is this going to be the guy that I have to work with for the next 5 years? Is this what I'm tying my first time coaching in the NFL that I might not get another shot at this. Look, other Bears head coaches, go through them. Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy, the other offensive guys, they might not get another shot at being a head coach. Mark Trestman's definitely not getting another head shot. Matt Nagy might get another shot at being a head coach. But for the most part, like, Eberflus isn't going to get another shot at being a head coach. So if this doesn't work with Ben Johnson, I want to know coming in, is this going to be the guy, or do I just have to put up with this for a year and then you're bringing in another guy? And if they met with Ryan Poles and if Ben Johnson met with Ryan, like, this is the whole thing, right? We all believe that Ben Johnson is the guy. We all believe this is the guy that everybody wanted. Some people could have wanted Vrabel, whatever. But this is the guy that everyone agreed was the best guy out there. The entire NFL agreed that this was the best guy out there. If he says that he can work with Ryan Poles, don't we kind of have to trust him?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think a part of that combination is that Ben Johnson had influence on the moves that were made in the offseason. Mm-hmm. And Ryan Poles, give him credit, being allowed to release some of the command and take advice from someone from an outside organization who has had success to bring in his thoughts and kind of pair that up with what he was doing. Because to this point, you can't tell me what Ryan Poles has done to this point has worked.
No.
It hasn't.
No.
They've only won 15 games while he's been the GM.
No.
They've lost 36, I think is the number.
I give
right?
him.
So do you see my point? Like, for what he tried to accomplish, it did not work. So taking advice from someone else and being able to use that person to help him, I think is something you do have to give him credit for.
Yeah, like
being able to pivot that way.
Well, like, I give Kevin Warren and George McCaskey a lot of credit for doing something the Bears have never done before, which is firing a head coach in the middle of the season they did with Matt Eberflus. But the negative of that is Ryan Poles and this organization was so bad that they did something they've never done before in the history of the organization and had to fire a head coach mid-season. Now, others have been warranted to be fired mid-season. The Bears, that's just something that they don't do. And now that they have new leadership in charge with Kevin Warren, they did that, and they went out and they got their guy in Ben Johnson. So, again, yeah, you can be upset. You can think that it's unwarranted. This is what it is, and I keep going back to, look, if these are the guys that Ben Johnson wants, and this is like this is what everybody wanted. So if Ben Johnson is saying, I can work with this guy, I like this guy as being my GM, I want him to be here, we're going to draft together, we're going to scout, all that kind of stuff, then we got to let Ben Johnson cook if we're going to let Ryan Poles cook, right?
Yeah.
You got to let Ben Johnson cook. Put the chef hat on. They can be like
yeah, he's the coach. He will.
They can be like Drake and Future in that video where they're both in the kitchen.
Okay. Bleck and Abdalla in for Waddle and Silvy here on ESPN 1000, the ESPN Chicago app. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going with it. Sure.
You haven't seen the video?
I got you.
Thank
you.
Tyler's got it? Okay.
It wasn't for you. It was for the youth.
We're in for